No, what was Watergate? I think most people know about Watergate in the sense of deep throat.
It was a scandal, but like
I don't think that's
That was the biggest thing that stood out to me when we learned about Watergate in school. Just Deep Throat always stood out to me because I thought it was hilarious.
No, but Watergate was like the scandal of all scandals. It's like the granddaddy of scandals, right? Especially in the
snowball
political,
effect.
the political hemisphere. It was like before Watergate happened, like everyone treated the presidency different than they do now. JFK used to have women come to the Oval Office. He used to get some action. Can't get away with that nowadays. Before that, too, FDR, right, had polio, and like no one really knew about it because
they hit his chair
Very well. They hit it very well.
So it really like people stopped treating the presidency like a monarch after Watergate happened.
Yeah. Today's episode, we have a special guest, my brother Zach.
How you doing?
Not the last Zach. That was.
Not to be confused with my brother Zach. That's so weird.
But it's okay. I don't remember that episode.
Yeah, is it my turn then? Am I supposed to get hammered and like
yes,
be purposely edited out of the entire episode?
No, your wife would be very upset.
Yeah, if you guys want to, go back and listen to the William Wallace episode, the last 30 minutes.
Because you maybe hear me once.
In between that is like me yelling at you to shut the fuck up.
So yes, back to Watergate.
So, right, everything after Watergate was a gate, right? It's because of that.
Yeah.
Deflategate, Bridgegate, Filegate.
Pizzagate.
Pizzagate, that's a real one, isn't
Yes,
it?
it is.
I forgot about that one.
Thank you, Alex Jones.
But what it did show is the like checks and balances in the government is actually important.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, Dick would have got away with a lot of shit.
Fucking dick.
Should have been impeached.
But anyways, let's get into it, right? This is the Historical Blunders podcast, and we're 3 friends and avid history buffs. So let's rock.
Avid.
This is the structure for today. We're going to cover the characters, and it's really just 2 main guys. We're going to go over George Gordon Liddy, who was the idea man behind the Watergate. And then we're going to talk about Dick. Richard Nixon. Right? I purposely don't want to go through, like, all the names and all the, like, political people, dominoes that fell.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, like, stuff that, frankly, gets exhausting.
Oh, yeah.
Of, like, here's what happened with this guy. And we'll go through at a high level what was happening, but I don't want to go through, like, step by step, here's what this guy did, and I think it's easy to get kind of exhausted by the politics of it.
Yeah.
So we're going to kind of stay out of that, but we are going to go through the climate and planning of the Watergate. We'll go through what happened that night of the burglary.
Well, which one?
The one where
What do
they
you mean,
got
which
caught.
one?
Well, I mean, there was several attempts of
We'll
this.
talk about it when we get to
Yeah,
it, Nathan.
come on, Nate.
I
Jeez
guess we're going to
Louise.
do trivia, but like I only have like one question. So, and then lastly,
Goggle.
we'll cover the unraveling of Nixon, which is, like I said, it's easy to like go through the details and kind of get boring with it, but we'll go through the high level because there's some really juicy bits, you know, I feel like in it, but let's only do the fun parts.
The fun.
Right? That's what we do here.
We try to have fun.
So anyways, we'll start with characters and George Gordon Liddy. Who was George Gordon Liddy and why is he important?
Good old Liddy.
He's the guy that came up with the idea to break into Watergate. So, to back up for all those who don't know, because most people don't know like what happened in Watergate. They just know like it's a big scandal and Richard Nixon was like, I'm a crook. Right.
Liddy never actually confirmed that he was the big planner behind it, though, right? I think he said it's all alleged, that he was like
Well, yeah, he's not gonna
coursed into it. Like,
So all the guys involved in this eventually ended up charged and went to
Yes.
prison for a time. So I'm not surprised.
That was like 48 convictions, I think, total.
So anyways, what they're really trying to do in Watergate was they broke into the Democratic National Committee as a means to do espionage and get information on what's their strategies for running against Nixon in the next term, right? So Nixon put together this committee to re-elect the president, which is literally called creep.
Yeah.
Which is funny.
Great.
But George Gordon Liddy wasn't necessarily on that board, but he was an idea guy to help them along, right?
He was.
So who was George Gordon Liddy? He grew up in Brooklyn, New York, kind of lived in New Jersey as well. His family came from German descent. He was a lawyer for a long time. He worked in the FBI. So he kind of worked his way up politics too. The way he did it was he had this like big bravado sense about him and a very like masculine,
That's a man.
like kind of big tough guy, a little bit. He helped plan the Bay of Pigs,
Which failed miserably.
which didn't go well. It's funny, like if that's on his resume and the Watergate thing, like
Fucking 0 for 2, buddy.
yeah, not a lot of success there.
He had some crazy shit, but yeah, not successful.
Right,
Great ideas, just didn't execute them well.
right.
Yes.
So when Nixon did get elected, he was part of his administration, and he was part of the White House plumbers, right? Which is like it's like they have all these funny terms, the Nixon administration. But the plumbers essentially were there to stop leaks from going to the press, so they would go around and use leverage on people, pretty much.
Yeah. It was their ragtag team of awesomeness.
No, but the
It's
way
like
you
Robin Hood, but in politics.
right, the way you describe Liddy is like a dog. He's like loyal to a fault, and he's determined and tenacious kind of guy.
Yeah, the crazy amount of loyalty that Nixon had.
Yeah, he had a lot of guys
Yeah,
for him that were like, we need to make sure he gets back in the next term, because like otherwise the government's or the country's going to go to shit.
Yeah.
He was a good talker. He was.
He was a good talker, and actually I think he did a lot of good, like politically.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think Watergate went well, obviously.
I mean,
No.
yeah.
I think that was just his one big thing that like everybody hated him for.
Yeah, it's hard to recover.
Yeah.
Yeah, but there was so much where he was a Republican side, he was conservative side, but he actually worked really well with Congress to get things passed. So like they started the Environmental Protection Agency and stuff like that, which we'll go through Nixon next.
Dick.
But the thing with Liddy too, right? He was willing to go to extremes. He was like the grease guy, I would say. Like if you need something done,
He was the enforcer.
yeah. If you need something done or him to do some dirty work, that he was your guy. He was there for
Figure it out, boss. Don't you worry.
Right.
Yeah. I could just imagine that.
He also would come up with like really risky plans.
Did he have a
that
Brooklyn
people-
accent? That's the real question.
I don't know.
because
that's a good
I feel like
question.
that would make him more likable.
I saw pictures of him though.
More likable.
I saw pictures of him though. He sounds he looks exactly like we're
he
explaining.
he was born in Brooklyn.
He
so
had to have a Brooklyn.
He had to.
Had to.
And it was probably what
I bet it was pretty thick.
yeah.
I mean,
Hey,
he had like
boss.
he had that like big mustache and like was like shaved head. Always like
Aryan
had the
race.
yeah.
Protect the brotherhood.
Probably right. No, I'm not shouldn't say it. But he had like a very bravado posture about him. He was a very muscular guy. He was always fit. He was always dressed well. One of his famous things was apparently like there's something about him holding his hand over fire to show how tough he was. And like some kind of like
Fire's hot.
I don't know where or when exactly, but just the fact that story is a part of his persona is kind of weird. Like, who are you trying to impress?
This man stuck his hand over a fire. I don't think you understand. He's tough.
Yeah, have you seen him put his hand in fire?
He will do anything for me.
Dude, I think Nixon had a lot of people like that, though.
Dude.
Like you
And
said.
that was my big
At least
takeaway.
48.
At least 48.
Well,
Maybe 49.
what? Well, just because of the 48 conviction.
Yeah, I think 64 people went on trial or something
Was
like
it?
that. Yeah. So, I mean,
That's a lot of people.
that is a lot
Well,
of
it
people.
was a lot of stupid shit.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's like, you should have just squashed it from the get-go.
Oh, yeah.
And been like, yeah, some guy did this, and it was a terrible idea, and I fired him as soon as I found out. That's how you squash...
He had
Liddy would have
this.
taken the fall for that, for sure.
Oh, he would have
Yeah.
done it. He had a lot of people that would have done it.
A lot of people. They were trying to get a lot of people to take the fall for it.
Yeah, well, later on it gets to be too big.
Yeah.
And then it starts to be like all of his guys.
That's when it unravels.
Snowball effect.
We'll go into that in a little more detail later. Yeah. We're by the way, to cut into this, right? We're super excited to announce that Nathan is having twins.
Yes.
Congratulations.
Two more for the Blunders clan.
Yeah.
That sounds horrible. We should not call it a clan. We're white.
Clan with K?
Colt's better.
Yeah, it's better. There's more money in a cult.
Yeah, we could use that.
You guys starting your own religion
no,
too?
I'm
tax free.
I'm super happy for you.
Thank you.
When I saw the what is it called, ultrasound pictures, I was like, oh, you're having a kid, and Sam's like, no, there's two. I'm like, oh, holy shit.
I don't know. Zach's reaction was, how many kids do you have? There's like 5 more.
No, have you ever seen that video though? It's like this guy and a girl, and she's like, I'm pregnant. And he's like, damn, you having 5 babies? And she's like, no, it's only one. That's just the pictures. And he's like, oh, it can't be mine.
I have seen. All right. God damn it, Zach.
I'm just full of memes.
You are.
Yeah.
You are. You're full of memes. So, yes, we are adding 2 more to the cult.
I hope they're both girls.
2 plus 3 is Pentagon.
You're going to have 4 girls in your house.
God, I hope not. All right, so yes, we're going to be talking about Dick. Good old Dick.
You just keep saying it.
Yeah,
it's going to get worse, too.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk about Richard Nixon.
Richard!
I hope you leave that in.
Richard!
Mom, meatloaf!
We want it now!
The 37th president of the United States.
And arguably the best president of the United States, honestly.
There's an argument for every president.
Depends if you like to argue.
I love to argue.
So good old Richard Nixon was born January 9th, 1913. In a really weird sounding city in California. Yorba Linda.
Is that the proper terminology for that? Yorba Linda?
It's probably something Spanish, and I need my wife here for that. She's my translator.
Hey, chica.
So, yes. Richard Nixon, born in 1913. His early career, he actually was a lawyer, which might have worked out for him eventually, but still didn't.
Understand why he's a smooth talker.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
I don't know. I don't think he's a smooth talker.
He talked his way out of a lot of things for a lot of years.
Well, he did kind of talk his way into power, and then when he got there, forgot how he was supposed to be.
Yeah.
I think he was a lot of like that good old boy mentality.
Yeah.
Right? Like, well, that's just how things go.
Yeah. Well,
That's the way of the world, damn it.
Yeah, he was that kind of old guy.
Yeah.
He was very stern,
Yeah.
right? He was kind of unforgiving a little bit. Mm-hmm. Kind of like, well, that's just how things go. That's right.
Yeah, so he started as a lawyer, joined the Office of Price Administration in Washington, D.C. during World War II, which he also served in World War II in the U.S. Navy.
Actually,
good for him.
Yeah, rising to the rank of lieutenant commander.
He's a dangerous dick.
Dangerous dick. He's a seaman.
Okay.
He served in the Pacific.
Killed the Japs.
Yeah. That's where Grandpa Harv was the Pacific.
Was he really?
Yeah, he was an electrician on a ship.
No, hey, he probably saw a lot of shit.
I'm pretty sure what the paperwork I have that his ship did catch fire and they had to put it out. But yeah, so he is actually military, which is pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Thank you for his service.
We do respect the military around here.
Hell
so
yeah.
Thank you.
He requested sea duty on July 2nd, 1943, and was assigned to the Marine Aircraft Group 25th and the South Pacific Combat Air Transport Combat.
So he was on a carrier.
Yep, also known as SCAT, where he supported the logistics of operations in the South Pacific Theater during World War II. And on October 1st, 1943, he was promoted to lieutenant.
All right. So after World War II, obviously, he actually was elected to the House of Representatives in 1946, so a year after the war ended. And then he gained a lot of national attention being part of the House Un-American Activities Committee, which, that was during the Red Scare, communism.
The only good commie's a dead one.
He probably said that.
He probably said that. A lot of people
lot.
said that.
A lot of
Yes.
people.
A lot of people said that.
But he actually was a part of this. It was the HUAC, but was really big during the Alger Hiss case. And Alger Hiss was a Soviet spy. He basically he fought it until the statute of limitations ran out, and then ended up serving like minimal time. So they couldn't really charge him as a spy. I forgot what they ended up, but that was a big part of Nixon. He was huge against the commies.
He kind of climbed the ranks a little bit politically, right?
Yeah. Then he went into
Nobody
this.
loves a commie lover.
Nope. He was very against the communists because he ended up in the Senate too in 1950, defeating the Democratic incumbent Helen Gahagan Douglas, and that's when he coined the term "pink lady." And that was he was basically calling this woman pink on the inside, and it's like, dude, come on, you can't get away with that now.
You can back then.
He could back then
Obviously.
because that was her being sympathetic to communism.
The good old days.
Yeah. Yeah, because good old days. The 50s. I would have thrived in the 50s.
Dude, any man
Would have thrived
would thrive
in the 50s.
I think that's what we yearn for, honestly.
We would be working the same jobs we would be, but having a huge house and a
Yes.
family of 17 kids and be like,
and be able to afford it
Yeah.
on one income.
yeah,
The
we,
good old
we
days.
have 17 cars.
Dude, I watched movies of like Mary Poppins, right? And the dad comes home and like the wife is there with a drink for him,
Nope.
and she's like, "Here you go,
Starting
sir."
dinner already.
And he takes the drink and he sits down and the children come in. He's like, "All right, good to see you, children. Did you have a good day?
What
And
did
he's
you
like-
do
And then he's
today?"
like, "Off to bed now," and the nanny will take you to bed. I was like, how easy must it have been to be
Yeah.
a man back then?
Yeah.
He's like, that is not how my routine coming home looks like. No, but I think in general with Nixon, what I want to say, like, he had this really established, experienced political career.
career. Yeah.
Like, he was well rooted. He didn't like come from money. He was a very hardworking, detailed guy. He was kind of a bully, right?
Yeah. Well, you have to be in politics.
Yeah, he was really good at it, and he made a lot of headway.
He pushed his agenda, and he
Right.
did it good.
He's kind of like the antithesis to John F. Kennedy,
Yeah.
to me.
Which he still.
Because Jack was like this good-looking guy,
And then there's Dick.
and then there's
Who
like,
looks like a dick.
Well, and JFK didn't have like a lot of political experience.
No. He just
Right.
had money and good looks.
But they ran against each other,
And
and he
Nixon
lost.
lost. But yeah, so before that, Nixon was the vice president to Eisenhower. Good old Ike.
Good old Dwight.
I like Ike. I have a pin over there in that baggie. Love that guy. I think there's a book of his poems over there too,
You know, he was the one that was concerned about the military-industrial complex.
which is hilarious
nice
to me
speech.
because
Yeah.
Yep.
It is a beautiful
Yeah.
speech.
of how involved he was in the military. So yeah, he actually
He knew what was coming. He did.
he did.
We should do an episode on it.
We
that's
could.
that's a great
Yeah.
great idea.
Good future episode. So yeah, Dwight Eisenhower's running mate in 1952. They won twice. Yeah, he was vice president twice. Also known in 1952 for his famous Checkers speech, which, looking into it, was kind of funny. So he was actually accused of using $18,000 of campaign contributions for personal expenses.
Oh, what was that back in the day? Like,
It was a hush payment.
no, I mean $18,000
like a foreshadow.
back in the day.
No, it wasn't actually a hush
Back
payment.
then,
But
it's
yeah,
probably
back
like
then,
$300,000.
Their
Yeah.
actual at the time for the Senate, their salary was only $15,000 a year,
Only.
but that was to cover their one round trip for them to come from wherever they're at to DC and for them to stay in DC for a while. So I mean, obviously back then, $18,000 was a shit ton of money. Probably, I mean, it's still probably over $100,000 nowadays. But so he was actually accused of using that for personal expenses because he happened to get a dog named Checkers, and so that's why they call it his Checkers speech, because he's like, I obviously I did not use that. I would never do that.
People want to say the president is a crook. Well, I'm not a crook.
I'm not a crook.
I'm the vice president. I read the whole thing. Like, basically, he was like, obviously I used that money to cover my political expenses that I didn't think the taxpayers need to pay and stuff like that. So,
Right.
So
Like
yeah,
checkers.
in 1960 he ran for president again, and then but also barely lost to JFK. It was actually really cool is that Nixon and Kennedy's were the first televised presidential debate.
Yeah, and I mean, Jack is like this charismatic, sexy guy.
Well, that's the thing. You saw Nixon, you're like, Jesus Christ, that dude's ugly.
He had a sweaty upper lip. All right, he blames not getting the presidency on a sweaty upper lip.
So he didn't win the presidential campaigns, and so then in 1968 he made a comeback, ran for president, won. He ran on trying to bring law and order back because the damn hippies, wanting to bring an end to Vietnam.
He was like this established, experienced,
Yeah.
solid candidate, right? That JFK kind of was. They were very opposite. in a
Also,
lot of
JFK
ways.
was dead then.
Yeah, also JFK was dead.
There were 2 shots.
It's a different episode.
So, Jake did hit a little bit. Nixon did do some good things.
Yeah.
The EPA, which to an extent is a good thing, but also sometimes really stupid. He did do affirmative action. He signed the Strategic Arm Limitation Talks, also known as SALT. He had a lot of cool acronyms for stupid shit. Creep,
Acronyms?
HUAC, acronyms.
I don't know if he did a great
acronyms.
job with acronyms.
No, he did
Yeah.
not.
Creep was especially. Did they like sit in a room and be like, all right, this is the committee to reestablish the president?
To re-elect. the
We're
president.
creeps, and did no one be like, can we change it a little bit?
I don't think creeps was as big of a term as it is nowadays.
Yeah.
Like,
No.
kind of like gay back in the day. Gay meant happy, but
What did creep mean back then?
Don't worry about it.
Hey, we're gonna creep up the presidency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're gonna creep up. All right. So yeah, he was the
game of inches.
yes.
I bet nowadays they look back like that was probably a bad idea.
He was the first president to visit the Republic of China. He implemented revenue sharing and expanded the food stamp program, which I'm not all about, but he did.
So there's a lot of stuff with him that's like he helped to push forward a lot of policies that were probably
policies.
pretty progressive.
For a conservative back then, yes.
Right, and he's a conservative on the conservative side.
He also gave the government more power than what they deserve, though.
That's a good way to put it. I agree with that.
Yes.
He worked on later in the Watergate scandal. He worked on stretching the limitations of that power.
Oh, yes, he did.
Yes.
Farther than he should have, I think.
So, a thing he ran on was trying to end Vietnam. He actually negotiated the Paris Peace Accords in 1973, leading to a ceasefire and eventual end of the U.S. involvement in Vietnam. Thing about Nixon is that he was also known for his very strong work ethic. Dude got shit done. If he said he was going to do it, dude was going to do it. He really got into policy details, and which is good, I think, for a president. I hate when people have too many outside people trying to help dictate policies. Like, to me, the most successful presidents we've had have been very like, this is my what I think the policy needs to be.
My vision.
Yes, and this is what I'm gonna stick to.
I think that's kind of what won him the election in 72 when all that stuff was going on, because they're like, well, he might have done it, but at least he gets stuff done. He says that he's going to do something, and he does it.
Yeah, I mean, he was like this stern old man.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, he would get stuff done, and he worked hard, and he was detailed.
Yeah.
He also, though, like, had these insecurities about him.
Yes, he maintained an enemies list.
Yeah, right.
His little black book.
Basically,
What the fuck is that?
it was a list of people that were threats to his administration, which is just funny.
Keep
Like,
a little angry book. He write it. Is there little angry names in?
I just picture fucking Ryan from The Office when he writes Jim's name.
He looked at me funny. He's out to get me.
But yeah, despite his successes and everything, yes, he was very insecure. He just needed constant approval from people. And I think that's,
I can relate to him so much. Like,
Do you
to
have
be
a little black book?
To be honest,
Basically,
yes.
like,
be careful, Zach. You're working on it, there, buddy.
so yes, Nixon's public persona was often differed significantly from his private one. While he projected confidence and authority in public in his private recordings and everything, he was very insecure, which I think is kind of funny.
It just really goes to show that, somebody who
Everybody
portrays
has
himself.
faults.
Yes,
I
somebody
mean,
who
look how
portrays
confident
himself.
I am.
Right. And on the inside, you're just
Crying for help.
But no, I mean, he portrayed himself as a, strong, powerful person who, doesn't back down from anything. But on the inside, he was always second-guessing himself and, always second-guessing the people around him. Are these people really my friends or are they my enemies?
Get the fucking book. So one of the most, I think, prominent things that I have always remembered about the way Nixon looks is his fucking nose.
His nose.
He's got a big fucking
He
nose.
does. Kinda
He
like
does have
Jew.
a big nose.
I always feel like he should have a mole on his face somewhere, but he doesn't.
It's like a big it's a big nose, but it's got the round tip.
Yes. Yep.
But
He does have a big nose.
Yeah.
You're right.
and that's just something that is always like
Do you guys feel
stuck
like he
with
should
me.
have a mole somewhere on his face?
a witch
Yeah. Yep.
on his nose.
Oh, that would be
There
even
you go.
better.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about the tapes later, but his insecure and kind of resentful personality was not shown to the public.
No.
Yeah.
He kept that very hidden.
And
Well, yeah,
it was
I mean-
one of the things that when those tapes came out, we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
It was just a bombshell.
It ruined his image
Because it was
so
like
bad.
this guy who was stern but honest and very orderly and all this was actually a total jackass.
The
in
complete
meetings.
opposite of everything that he was saying.
He was a stern asshole.
Yeah.
And he did get things done, for sure.
Yeah.
But he was an asshole.
Maybe out of hatred of himself.
he
He was a dick.
He was
He was a dick.
he was so unlikable. Yeah, for sure.
That's what is baffling to me is now learning about Nixon is how unlikable he is. But then he was so fucking popular.
Yeah. So that's the other thing. His ratings as a president
We're insane.
were very
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
They
Everybody
were,
loved him.
They were up and down, right? And especially towards the end.
But I mean, it was also a very turbulent time, and
Yeah.
I mean, Vietnam was not a popular thing at all.
but he was the president to end it.
Yes, he was.
So there's times where the public really approved of him, and even him rerunning in 1972, he won by a landslide.
Which is insane. With a
Insane.
yeah, with a fucking ongoing scandal. But
He said he was going to end Vietnam, and
he did it.
He did it.
yeah, so he did a lot of gesturing. He was very deliberate with his gesturing.
I'm not a crook.
He did a V for victory gesture a lot. Yeah.
He was trying to be cool.
He was trying
honestly
to be cool.
Jack Kennedy was the cool guy.
Yeah, and you're the guy. I mean,
Nixon was not.
Nixon was. Yeah,
But either way, those are the guys, the two main guys, and we're gonna go into what was the land looking like at this point. Nixon barely won his first campaign, and obviously we talked about creep, but he put that in place because he was worried about getting reelected in his second term, as every president kind of does. So he put down this people to work on it the entire time he was president. So what did those guys do, right? So they did a whole bunch of tactics, basically under the table, kind of dirty work. Some honest stuff too, but they did a lot of controversial activities intelligence gathering, espionage. Especially stuff at the Democratic Party and what was their plan, what's their strategy. The best way to beat that is to know what they're gonna do, right? But also in the public, there was this general, I would say, counterculture against the government that was brewing in the 60s and the 70s. And then the Pentagon Papers came out. And I kind of want to touch on that because it starts to brew this kind of hatred of the government at that time. Speaking of Vietnam, it really was covering the government's manipulation of the public from 1945 all the way up to 1967. And it was basically leaked from a military personnel, Daniel Ellsberg, to basically show, hey, The government's not your friend. They're tricking you. They're deceiving you. And the public already is against the war.
Yeah.
And then they start learning about stuff like this. And kind of like, we talked about the presidency being viewed as a monarch.
Yeah.
But like the whole government was kind of like that back then.
Yeah, like literally up to this point, the American people blindly followed.
Yeah.
The government said we have to do it.
Whatever
not what your government should do for you, but what you should do.
Yeah. We're saving cans for the war effort because that's gonna help.
Well, because the government helped do incredible
Not
things
what
in
your
World War
country
II.
can do for you, but what you can do for your country.
Absolutely. But then you get later in 20 years down the road, and people start questioning like, what's going on? This doesn't feel right. And what didn't help is this came out during the Nixon administration, and they worked on like blocking it from publication.
Yeah, that was the big thing with Creep, is they were trying to squash anything and everything related to.
Which is wild because like Nixon wasn't even the guy who decided the stuff in Vietnam.
Yes. That is what
he's the guy who ended it.
Yeah,
but he's like working to suppress the knowledge of the Pentagon Papers to the public.
Yeah.
Like not a good move.
You can't make the government look bad if you're a part of the government or the one running it.
That's kind of the part about Nixon, I would say, is like he's so out of touch.
Yeah.
With a lot of stuff. Right? Like he's the stern guy, he gets stuff done, but like there's so many times where it's like, dude, don't do that. Like that's not what you should do. Like someone's got to slap him in the face and be like, "No, Dick."
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Dick
don't
slap.
do it, Dick.
Dick slap. But like what kills me is that not a single person was like, "Just let it happen, man." Like it's not you.
Right. If he came out and was like, "These are atrocious."
Yeah, that's all he had to do.
That's all you had to do. Even with Watergate, if he had come out and said, "This is awful.
Yeah.
I can't believe this happened in my administration.
Yeah.
If I'm at fault, I'm at fault, but I absolutely do not support something like this."
That's all he had to do.
That's all he had to do, but he wouldn't do it.
No.
I'm not a crook.
He was too proud.
He was too proud. For sure.
But yeah.
I think he was worried about the view of himself and the government at that point, and what would happen at the populace level, the regular civilian level,
Right. That was his thinking was, well, the public doesn't need to know this. Yes. They don't know best, right?
Yep.
They can't handle the truth.
They don't know what's going on around the world globally. Well, World War II kind of started that,
So anyways, Creep's installed at this point. They're working on getting Nixon reelected with dirty tactics. Well, and then you have the Pentagon Papers that come out, and like people are already a little angsty, but then they decide to go and do the Watergate burglary, and I wasn't there, but I can imagine that this is our first segment of totally how it happened.
Gordon Liddy sits down with Howard Hunt to discuss Creep plans.
Howard, listen up, you miserable bastard. I've got a plan that's gonna blow your goddamn mind. We're gonna break into the Democratic National Committee headquarters and wiretap those sons of bitches.
Jesus Christ, Gordon. Are you fucking high or just fucking insane?
What? Oh, okay, Mom. Probably both, but that's why this is gonna work. Those morons won't know what hit them.
Oh, sure. When we get caught, we'll be the laughingstock of the entire goddamn country.
Caught? Us? Come on, we've done crazier shit. Just look at the Bay of Pigs.
Yeah, and then the FBI busts down the door. We can tell them it's all just a misunderstanding.
Anyways, Howard, we're pros. We get in, we get out. No one's the wiser. Besides, Nixon needs this. Do you want to let that asshole McGovern win? I sure as hell don't.
Fine. But if this goes to hell, I'm throwing your ass under the bus.
That's the spirit. To Watergate. May our bugs be hidden, our lies be smooth, and our balls be made of steel.
And here's to hoping we don't end up in the punchline of some future joke. And god damn it, Gordon, would you put some pants on?
Oh, right. Oh, sorry. So obviously that dramatization...
Dramatization.
That is fictional, but it is based on true events. Liddy and the White Staff member
Howard Hunt
did agree to proceed with the plan to burglarize Watergate.
All right, so we're going to talk about the infamous break-in.
What happened on the night, right?
Well, there was multiple times. They were not good. So this group, which is very hilarious to me, is that they were known as the ragtag team.
And that's exactly what they were.
So what's funny is
It's like us.
Liddy being former FBI, there was former CIA, and and a lot of them were Cuban nationals.
What is that supposed to mean?
Because commies.
Whatever it takes.
No,
to get it
they
done.
were against the commies in Cuba. But
At the time.
what's funny is that I think honestly, if Nixon could have used the CIA or FBI, he would have, but he couldn't. So this is the best they came up with. Creep is not smart.
Bunch of creeps.
Yes, there was 3 failed attempts breaking into Watergate. The first time they were breaking into the psych office of the Democratic nominee, just trying to get some dirt on him. Well, they couldn't get into the door. They brought the wrong kind of locksmith with them.
The Wong
The
locksmith.
the wrong kind of locksmith. And so they ended up breaking a window, which made a scene, obviously. But then they literally found nothing. They had nothing out of that, except for people like, why are people breaking into this office? Then the second attempt, they were trying to bug the office of Larry O'Brien, who was the campaign chairman of Grove McGovern, the Democratic nominee. But they bugged the wrong office because they didn't know where his office was. Like, this is starting to be like if I tried to do this.
I was gonna say, it's like every time you do something like that, you run a risk of getting caught. So doing it 3 times,
And yes, you're
Third time's the
progressive.
charm.
You'd think. But yes, the third time they actually broke in and they got caught. So in the early hours of June 17th, 1972, the team of 5 enters the Watergate complex. So the Watergate complex is the hotel, offices, and a bunch of other shit. The hotel actually looks super fucking nice.
Beautiful.
I did look it up.
we should stay there.
It'd be
I
so
would
much
love
fun.
to.
You could stay in the room, their room.
Put tape on the doors.
Yeah.
How many times?
They're like, God damn it, not again.
So the burglars, wearing gloves, carrying sophisticated surveillance equipment, gain entry to the DNC office by covering the door jambs. They blocked it with tape,
right?
so
Yeah.
then it can't close, can't lock. Well, a security guard noticed the tape on the door, removed it, and just kept going.
He was kind of like,
Didn't think
oh,
anything of it.
yeah, I guess there's
like-
tape on the door.
Weird.
Yeah. So
Anyways, la 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 la.
the funny thing is they had, the radios and all this shit. They had lookouts and this and that. And what I saw was really cool was their devices they were using. So they had the
Chapstick.
yeah, the chapstick.
Yep.
That was really cool. Cuz it was like a legit chapstick tube, but then there was a wire going on. So it's like, I don't know a single person that just has a random chapstick tube they don't touch.
And they put it in a safe too. And
they're fucking stupid.
Yeah.
What does it do?
It was a wiretap, or it was microphone.
Yep.
Yeah. So they bugged. Their whole plan was they were bugging the DNC national office,
Right.
and because they just needed to know what their plans were, and so they went in using all this sophisticated equipment, and so they put the tape on the door. The security guard saw it, ripped it off, kept going. Well, then they noticed the door was closed, and they're like, "Shit! Like, we're gonna get caught."
It was a big moment then, right?
It'll be fine. We'll just tape the door again.
Right.
Well, when they did that, the security guard returns and sees the piece of tape, goes back to his other guys and is like, hey, like, this piece of tape keeps kind of showing up. And they're like, just fucking call the cops. That is the most security guard thing of all time.
Dude, I would have loved to be there for that conversation.
They're security guards. They can go inspect it, but they're just like, just call the cops.
Not our job. Not our job.
Turns out it was a good move.
Yeah. So the police responds and they
Bum squad.
they apprehend the burglars.
I mean, they get caught red-handed, right? They're in the
Yeah.
middle of bugging the freaking DNC.
Yeah.
The funniest part about that is, do you guys know that the spotter that was supposed to be on the lookout for them was watching a movie
Yeah.
called what is it called? The Master Puppet or something like Attack of the Puppet People.
The
Yes.
the dude that was supposed to be watching was not watching.
You know, halfway through the movie, he's like, "Oh, what are all red and blue lights? Oh shit, let me call him up."
He's like, guys, the cops are here. They're like, yeah, we're in handcuffs, dick.
"We know."
So the best part is that the people that were the people that did it got caught. Well, then there's people in the hotel surveilling all this, and they're like, "Oh fuck,
We fucked up.
Well, they're freaking out. They're trying to figure out what to do. Their fingerprints are all over the fucking place. They're trying to clean up their room because eventually it's gonna get found out.
Right, Liddy had helped supervise it.
Yeah,
right?
Liddy was
He wasn't.
there.
He
It was-
wasn't in there.
It was Liddy, and then I think that
Howard Hunt.
the McCord guy was
Howard Johnson was
My Johnson?
the spotter. Yes.
Yeah, but I think McCord was the
he was.
the CIA guy was the guy that was arrested. One of the guys arrested.
Yeah.
He was the bug guy,
But
right? He was the
Liddy was around there
Yeah.
at the time.
yeah.
when it
Liddy
was going
Liddy
on.
was in the hotel, wasn't he?
And he helped decide, like, hey,
James
they took,
McCord.
they took
James
tape
McCord,
off
yeah.
the door.
Yeah.
Should we keep going? And Liddy's like, yeah,
It'll be
yeah, we
okay.
should keep going.
It'll be okay.
It'll be fine.
And it didn't work out.
It did. It did not. So the burglars were found in
It,
possession
in fact,
of
was not fine.
their bugs, the surveillance equipment, cameras, lockpicking tools, and cash.
So also, what's funny about that too is one of the guys had a notebook that had White House circled on it,
Yeah.
and like come on, guys, like what are we doing here? Like that's dude. We're gonna go into this now, but there's so much with this like scandal where it's like just have half a brain
Yeah.
to cover up shit.
It's like
It very easily
hired
could
a
have
bunch
just
of
been.
meth heads
Like,
to
dude,
break in.
Nixon recorded all of his conversations and didn't throw this
Yeah.
away and delete it.
I had to burn it as
What?
soon as
Yeah,
as
what
soon
the-
as they
Why
got
would you
caught.
even record it?
Right.
Well, so let's
he was paranoid.
And so that was the break-in. So we're going to try something new since, thanks for the handful of people that took our survey.
Yeah, it gave us a lot of good feedback. I
Yeah.
think we're gonna have a couple tweaks.
Yeah. There was a comment about wanting to see and hear more weird facts and just in general. So we're going to try a little something new.
There's a couple new things about today, I think.
Well, yeah.
right?
But one of the things we're going to try new is kind of giving you a broader aspect of the time period that we're talking about. We're going to give you a couple of, like, what's happening around the world and stuff at the time this stuff was happening. So, Watergate was happening in 1972. The 70s. What a time to be alive.
I am not a
Make peace, love, not
that was,
war.
that was
man.
60s, dude.
Oh, potato, tomato.
So,
The hippies stayed around into the 70s. It was just disco that time.
yeah, the hippies became disco.
Yeah,
Drugs and music still affected them. There was an earthquake in Nicaragua that killed, which I do kind of love this this range because it's a significant range, 4 to 11,000 people.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean that's 7,000 people range. It's like you'd think it'd be a little closer. Little closer.
That's a lot of people.
It is a lot. Of
It's
people.
at least
It was
4.
it was a big earthquake. I don't
Yeah.
remember what the magnitude was.
Wait, 4 to 11,000 people killed?
Yeah,
or?
killed.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay.
The first commercial video game console was released, the Magnavox Odyssey.
No,
I have literally never heard of it.
never.
What
Sounds
is
like
the
the-
Magnavox Odyssey?
Some shitty thing.
I thought that like the Atari.
Fucking
was the
Atari.
first. Yeah.
Atari blew it out of the water.
Yeah.
Which really worries me because that was Pong.
Snake.
You had to suck not to beat that.
Yeah. And then also in 1972, something crazy happened in Munich for the Summer Olympic Games. That was when Palestinian Black September terrorist group killed 11 coaches and athletes of
What?
Israel
Yep.
What? I
at
didn't
the
know
at
this.
the Olympic Games. Yeah, it was a whole big deal.
How'd they do it?
Guns,
Yes.
lots of guns.
Automatic rifles.
Yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, so the terrorist group was known as the Black September. They're also known.
Wake me up when it ends.
Jesus Christ, such a horrible song. But notably,
Justin Timberlake is waking up right now.
this terrorist group was known for also killing the Jordanian prime minister. That was basically all they did, was they killed the Jordanian prime minister, then the Munich Olympics.
Then they were just like, all right, we're done. We've done everything we did.
And then they became other groups. But yeah. But yeah, that's what was happening around the world in 1972. Depressing shit. So the next topic we have is trivia.
All right, let's do trivia.
Let's do some trivia.
I believe it's time for
All right.
I couldn't
so
find anything.
in honor of Dick, and that's how I'm going to refer to him because this is a dick move. What was Nixon's favorite food
Ooh, that's a good one.
while he was president?
He looks like a cheeseburger, motherfucker.
I'd say like
Cheeseburger?
hot dogs.
Hot dog? Because he's a dick.
Yeah.
Likes phallic
Yeah.
shaped things.
He likes phalanges.
Nope.
Phalanges.
That's fingers.
Oh, shit.
Dumbass. All right. So, no.
I like phalanges.
Actually, it's even worse.
What? Phallus? What's the proper term
Phallic.
for penis?
Phallic. Whatever. Penis-shaped items. No, he did not like penis-shaped
Was it
items
ice
because his
cream
name was
cones?
Dick. No, it was even fucking ice cream cones. Just the cone. No, very fucking weird. Cottage cheese and ketchup.
What the fuck?
Yeah, this dude's a fucking monster.
That's a maniac right there. How did he get...
That is
How did
how
he
you
become
know he is
president?
100% guilty of everything he did.
That must have not come out before he ran for president. Otherwise, that would be
I
like,
would've
do you
convicted
hear what he
him right
likes? Cottage cheese and ketchup?
All right. Fly, your question?
Oh, what was the name of the informant? We already kind of covered it. But what is the pseudonym given to the secret informant who provided information on the Watergate scandal to the media?
To the media.
Like CNN?
No.
Like
No, it's the Washington Post.
What did they call their secret informant? Deep Throat.
Deep.
That
Oh,
was the-
deep throat.
Yeah, see? I honestly think in Stillman Valley they stopped teaching Deep Throat
They
because
did.
of how hard I laughed when he said it.
I really think they did.
So
think they
Deep
did.
Throat was actually FBI Associate Director Mark Felt.
Yeah. And they named him after a popular adult film that came out called Deep Throat. All right, so my
Abigail
last
definitely
question,
settled.
which we've already got very excited and saying we were doing it. Is Watergate still open?
For sure.
Yes.
For sure.
We talked about it like
I
four
know.
times.
I got so excited. But no, so actually you can stay in the scandal room. They call it that. It's room 214.
Yes.
It's a really nice fucking room.
It was funny that Watergate really lasted like 2 years,
Yeah, because it was
2 or 3 years. Like by the end of it, everyone was so exhausted about it. Like it was like just piss or
Annoyed
get off the
with it.
pot.
Yeah.
Like get out of here or not. You know,
Well, I mean, when you're dealing with
because it's important.
high-ranking government officials.
You did it. We know you did it. Just
mean,
admit it.
So the thing too, in 1972, he got reelected.
Yeah.
Like, and it was kind of like a landslide. It wasn't necessarily very close.
So yes, so the break-in, the burglars, they were refusing to talk. But what's funny is that McGovern guy was tied McGovern
Had direct ties. Yeah.
McCord. Sorry, McCord.
James McCord.
Yes, had direct ties to the re-election campaign because he was like head of security or something.
Right. There's
Security advisor for that.
a lot of really poorly covered tracks.
Yeah,
in all of this.
Like they could have just used
It's like
a
they
whole
swept it under
team
the
of
rug,
Cuban
but, like-
nationals and been able to like forget about it completely, have no ties to it. But they used very important people.
People that you don't want caught
Yeah.
by something like that. And, right. And it's kind of funny because like you have this burglary, right, and you have espionage, and it's something that kind of like back in the day politically, it's something that happens. But
Well, I mean, Cold War era,
but
all
yeah,
the espionage that
Yeah.
happened.
but the problem
Everybody's
is like,
keeping secrets.
the public is starting to get really like really scrutinizing the
On the
government,
government, yeah.
right? You have that going on. I think frankly the government wasn't prepared for that.
No.
The way they did things was like, well, just we did something bad. It goes under the rug. Like
that's
literally
now.
because they could literally tell the media back in the day, like, hey, don't cover this.
Yeah.
Because
And they
this is
wouldn't.
going to be a problem. And they would be like, oh, okay, well, let's do our civic duty and let's not do it. But like this is when times are changing.
Yeah.
And
Media
there's-
was like, you know what?
Yeah, there's
we
there's
shouldn't trust the government.
right. There's too many fingerprints all over all this. Where like it's a slow burn, but like as the hearings come out later on and more evidence comes out, it's like a damning. This little burglary attempt is what killed the presidency. Right. This is the only president who had to resign from office.
Yeah. Should have been impeached.
Right. Should he? Well, he was in process of getting impeached.
Oh, he resigned because of it, though.
Yeah. So
we're in 1970.
So this happens in June, right? This whole thing, like you said, and 2 months later, he wins his re-election in a landslide. No one hears about it. That's how slow things move back in the day. All right. Something really bad happens. No one calls him out on it, and he wins the election like 2 months later.
And then 2 months later, they're like, "He did what?"
Well, not even that, right? Until the next year, April, right? Some of his top aides starting to have to resign because there's mounting pressure over their involvement in the scandal, which is like basically the media starts uncovering stuff, right?
Actually doing
media work,
journalism.
So one of the things that's like blatantly obvious is Nixon's campaign has direct funds going to one of the burglars, like in a bank account in Mexico, like from Nixon's campaign funds directly to
Richard Nixon, $25,000.
So like it's one of the it was $25,000 check, right?
Which is insane.
Which is like $185,000 back then. It's a lot of money.
That's quick math.
I did it beforehand.
He looked it up.
Don't you worry, honey.
I'm very worried.
Good. So eventually, the next month, they start having Watergate hearings at the Senate. And one of the funny things that happens is like this Alexander Butterfield guy basically like kind of offhand admits that there's tapes of Nixon in the Oval Office
doing their secret meetings.
Yeah, like they were talking about something and he was like, "Well, I don't know, we could check the tapes." And the Senate was like, "What was that?"
What tapes?
So what's funny to me is that he had like an off-site office for his secret meetings.
Yeah.
But then still proceeded to have secret meetings in the Oval Office.
Well, so let's talk about why he had the tapes to begin with, right? Because you got to go back to who Nixon was, right? Nixon was a broke dude, didn't have any money, earned everything that he got. Respect him for that, right? One of the things that presidents can do a lot after they finish their presidency is sell their, like, you know, books and memoirs of what happened. And the best way to do that is to have tapes.
Yeah.
So like the tapes were Nixon's way of having income after he retired, basically.
Always about that bread.
That's right. We all got to get that bread.
Chase that money.
I don't blame him. However, at a certain point, he probably should have known, hey,
this is not going to go well.
This might be incriminating.
Like his little income that he's looking for at the end of all this wasn't worth the impeachment that he was facing and obviously resignation, right?
Yeah.
Thanks, Obama.
It's always. But at this point, like, some of his people start backstabbing. It becomes this game of, like...
He said, she said.
Right.
She said.
He said. So, but, like, you think about it, right? If you're a staff member...
Yeah.
And all this shit is going down, you're either going to say... Because Nixon's basically, at this point, almost asking people to, like, take the fall.
Yeah. He is, like, that's the thing is a lot of these people are, are trying to get immunity if they bring down the organization but yeah, he's trying to get all these people to take the fall and they're like, I don't want all of this.
Right. The like loyal people start to kind of fall apart.
They're like, I'm not taking the entire fall for this. Like, we're going to prison.
Right. So like there's a lot of push now that the tapes are known about. There's a lot of push to get the tapes released. And Nixon's like, no, I'm not going to release the tapes. And, like, one thing I never understood is, like, why not... Because they were his personal property at the point. It wasn't like the presidency you required to do these tapes. But LBJ did some taping and, like, told him to do it. And, like, showed him all the equipment and stuff. And then Nixon threw it all away and set up this nicer stuff. Where it was, like, it automatically turned on whenever someone was talking. Because he wanted everything recorded, so like it was automatic. Even if it wasn't something he necessarily wanted.
The downfall of Nixon.
really that's what it is, right?
Wanting to be fancy.
So eventually it starts to spiral, and the FBI is investigating him. He's got the Attorney General also investigating him and stuff like that. So he orders the firing of the guy who's prosecuting him. So there's this whole point where he's trying to fire this guy Archibald Cox. And basically he's telling his boss, like, hey, you need to go fire this guy. And at a certain point, he's like, you're not going to fire him, then I'm going to fire you. And fired all these high-ranking attorney generals and stuff like that. It's called the Saturday Night Massacre on October 20 of 1973. And really, this is, at this point, it's like an abuse of power. Right? At this point, it's like, all right, should the presidency be able to fire a guy who's investigating him?
Yeah.
Because the answer is probably no. So people start to really turn on him in early of 1974. And then finally, the Supreme Court in July unanimously rules that he must release the tapes.
77-0, right?
Yeah. Right. Unanimous.
Yeah.
Right.
And
So
the best part is the next date. It's my birthday.
July 27th. I don't remember that. You're not that important to me.
Yeah, I don't
But basically,
remember
Watergate's
birthday
more
either.
important.
It's
than
like
you.
2 weeks later. Once those tapes come out, they're so damning of like painting a terrible picture of Nixon. And also there's a blatant smoking gun conversation between him and his senior staff member, like talking about Watergate and like, how are we going to handle the FBI investigating this?
Yeah.
But like even more important than that, like there's all this stuff coming out of him. And I think like this is the out of touch part of Nixon. Like he should have known the public was going to hear this stuff or like read the transcripts and be like, this guy is a asshole.
Well, yeah, everyone just kind of sees him as
A sour old man.
Yeah.
it basically flipped everybody's vision of him.
Right. Cause he was seen as such a respectable guy.
Yeah.
And like, I want to talk about a couple of the things that he said. So after a national prayer breakfast in 1972 and talking to Halderman about the Vietnam War, I know obviously this is really bad. He says, who is more keenly aware than I am that from a political standpoint, we should have flushed it down the drain 3 years ago, meaning like we should have ended the war, right?
Yeah.
He said, I could have blamed them and been the national hero, as Eisenhower was for ending Korea. What would have Vietnam looked like if the war had ended earlier? It wouldn't have been too bad. Sure, the North Vietnamese...
Vietnamese.
Sure, the North Vietnamese would have probably slaughtered and castrated 2 million South Vietnamese Catholics, but nobody would have cared. These little brown people so far away, he continued, we don't know them very well, naturally, you would say. Like, this, obviously, terrible thing to have be released to the public.
Couldn't get away with that nowadays.
So not only that, but Indira Gandhi visited the White House, and she was the first and only prime minister of India that was female. He had this to say when talking to his aides about her. This is just the point. She's just a bitch, Nixon said. The Indians, and then his aide said, well, the Indians are bastards anyways. And he's like, oh yeah, she was a bitch. And then later he's like, yeah, we really slobbered over that old witch. Which is like such a disgusting
way to handle that.
Like that's just gross thing to say.
Slobbered over that old witch. What does that even mean?
I don't even know. But basically, so that comes out, and there's a lot of conversations like that where he's talking to his aides, and he's just kind of an ass, you know, and like he swears a lot. Mm-hmm. He's like his insecurity side kind of starts to show. Like people don't like him anymore, and he worked so hard to have his
image,
right of a respectable, you know, solid guy. And like the tapes come out, and it's like, dude, he's like a Scrooge.
Yeah, nothing like that.
And then like I was thinking about playing some of the audio from it, but like the audio sounds so bad.
Oh, does it?
It's terrible. But like if you read the transcripts, you can see like it's ugly conversations. You know, like his conversation
He
about
would be deemed a hardcore racist nowadays.
Yeah, he had some stuff about Jews too at one point too. But
don't they all?
But yeah, I mean,
feel like when any political figure is like going down swinging, they're just like, you know what, fuck it, let's yell at the Jews.
Yeah.
That's just like every.
Is that
like,
the same thing with Kanye? Or
He went down swinging.
He did. He's still going down swinging.
Yeah, he still is.
it's like a slow burn for him. Yeah. But anyways, after the tapes come out, like 2 weeks later, he's getting impeached, and he resigns, and he has
Probably
that famous.
the smartest thing he did.
Yeah, he has that famous. Oh, I'm not a crook. And then Gerald Ford takes over the presidency and pardons him.
What a bitch move on his part too.
Yeah,
I
a little
mean,
bit. Yep.
Yeah, there was no reason to pardon him.
No, absolutely not. Caught red-handed.
Yeah, dude was 180% guilty
I think the argument is, do we really want a president
to go down as a criminal.
in prison? Would that look good? The answer is it would not look
Do
good.
we really want a former president in prison?
But the funny thing about it all is Nixon initially never knew anything about Watergate. It was a plan agreed upon by one of his aides. And he didn't say like, "Oh yeah,
Let's do this.
dude, let's do it." Like a dog with the blood on its mouth,
Foaming at the fucking chops.
Right. He didn't do that. All he did was when it came up to him, he's like, "Well, how are we going to cover it up?" And then the smoking gun tape is him talking to his aide and being like, "Well, how are we going to control the FBI on this investigation?"
Yeah.
And it was like, "Well, okay. Obviously, you can't do that."
It was like people so loyal to him that wanted him to, succeed and stay president. And then he's like, "Oh, well, how do I save these guys? Because they're on my side. They're coming to bat for me."
Right. Maybe that's a fault of his own. Maybe he wasn't able to say, these guys messed up. They need to be,
If he would have
made
just
an
said
example
those
of.
words right there, I mean, it probably would have saved his political career.
yeah, his legacy.
Yeah.
I think his legacy is more
Tarnished.
Like
Oh,
we
yeah.
said, he could have just denied it immediately.
Yep.
Came out and
I mean, the first thing that you think of when you think of Richard Nixon is Watergate. I
Yeah.
mean, me personally.
Oh
at
yeah,
least.
for sure.
well, now I'll forever be ingrained with cottage cheese and ketchup.
Oh,
I mean, like
that's gonna stick with me forever.
admitting stuff is the best way to do it, right? Like even Obama, right? When he was running, they were like, "Oh yeah, he used to do cocaine." So like when he started running, he's like, "When I was a kid, I used to do a little blow. No big deal." And it's like everyone's
Every
like, "Well,
kid does it.
yeah, I mean, he did blow, but it's cool now, you know."
Yeah.
like he controlled the conversation,
Well, that's the thing is you admit to it. Yeah,
And
exactly.
people are-
You control the narrative.
Yes.
If you admit fault immediately, you can control because there's like, oh shit, like
Especially
okay.
being a high-ranking official like that, people
like
tend to-
literally like you
tend
said
to side
earlier.
with you.
Yeah, like all you had to say is, yes, this happened. I was not aware of.
Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think there was just a bravado of the government back then, be like, "We can take care of this."
Obviously,
the
not.
people don't need to know.
The veil had been torn of the monarchy.
Yep. And
Now
ever
we
since
all
then,
hate
we
the
don't
president.
trust the government.
Now that's the thing.
Yeah.
None of us trust the government anymore.
You can't.
And that was the key role in doing it too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine if it didn't happen.
So what is important in
Didn't
this
get
too?
happened.
The
I've been drinking.
the checks and balances did play a huge factor in all this, right? The Supreme Court ruling that the tapes need to be released, the Senate hearings that were going on had a lot of beneficial impact on the investigation. If those things didn't happen, the Constitution wasn't strong enough. We wouldn't have actually gotten through all this.
Nah.
He could have squashed the media.
Yeah. Luckily, we have the 3 branches of government.
Thank you guys for listening. If you don't mind, please leave a comment in the review section of whatever your platform you're listening to. Follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Historical Blunders Podcast. And I don't know what we're going to do next for a topic, but we'll figure it out. Anyways, you guys have a nice week. We'll catch up with you next time.
Toodles.
Toodles.